Good Wednesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and this is Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us here on the I Love CVille Network. It's great to connect with you through our building in downtown Charlottesville on a show today presented by Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage, a team that you can count on to get you to the closing table. Judah Wickower, our friend, 13 years of working side by side, and a man who's absolutely blossoming here on the I Love CVille Network. I sincerely mean that. Why don't we, at your leisure, my friend, go to the studio camera and then the 3-shot, and let's welcome the experts, the pros, Maggie Gunnels.
Hello.
And Scott Morris.
Good morning, good morning.
How's everybody doing today?
Doing very well, thank you.
You got the primo parking space, Maggie.
I did.
Literally right in front of the studio. Did you see her pull up there?
I did.
I try to get that parking space every day. Don't have much success with that. Gunnels got it literally the day she shows up. Might want to buy a lottery ticket later today.
My magic.
Yeah, there you go. Scotty Moe has got a lot to cover as well. My friend Scott Morris, why don't we start with you? We have some listings you would like to spotlight this Wednesday morning.
Absolutely. Judah, whenever. Oh, we're ready? Awesome. So one of the first things we've got this week is Valisa Fox has a property at Hollow Ridge in Moseley, Virginia, out near Richmond. It's pretty amazing. Taylor Everett has a listing on 13th Street here in Charlottesville that they've just reduced by $30,000. The new price is $520,000. Dinah Banks has a property just outside of north side of Culpeper on Egbornsville Road, which is amazing, has beautiful views, fantastic property. And Brad Pitt has one that's just reduced to $899,000.
Very fantastic. A handful of listings right there. Judah Wickower is spotlighting on the show. A fantastic mortgage broker to partner with, Scotty Moe. He's going to help highlight your listings as well. That's the first sizzle reel. Let's weave Maggie Gunnels into the mix and create some content with you, Maggie. You're moving real estate with the Gunnels Group. The show is yours. What would you like to highlight first? Some trends you're seeing out there in the market.
No inventory. Still no inventory. A lot of people that want to buy, that $200,000 price point is like impossible right now. So that's kind of been the big issue, is just lack of inventory.
We're certainly seeing that across the board, Judah and Scott. What do we think, Scott Morris, we can do about this besides governmental action? I was reading Zillow yesterday, and this made some of the national headlines. Zillow did a survey, and the survey suggested that rates need to drop between 5 and 5.5% for those of us that are golden handcuffed, as they put it. We secured rates in the 2.5, 2.7, 3%, 4% range for us to give up that rate and put our home on the market. Scott Morris, are you buying that survey?
Yeah, well before Zillow announced that in a survey, I've been saying that 5.5 is the benchmark, or below 6. I think you put a 5 handle on it. I think you're quoting 5 3/4, 5.875, whatever it is. I think that's the range. Because certainly if we're in for an average of 5.5, there's going to be people who might be, paying some discount points, getting a 4 handle somewhere in that range. But, speaking of Zillow specifically, there's a ton of, they are reaching out to agents and lenders and people in the communities going, hey, we've got this zip code that's come available. And this is from a friend of mine in Indiana, had a partner reach out to him, and while the average price point in their area has risen to $385, the Zillow closings are down to $275. And what that means is there are people who are literally falling off the rolls. Like, I've had borrowers who just say, I don't want to do this anymore. So they come in as leads and then they just don't close. And what is closing is at a lower price point. And not just with this agent and this lender, many of the people I speak with, their ROI, their number of closings with these leads are declining. So let's say they were at 8%, now they're below 4. If they were at 4, they're close to 0, 1% in the leads that they're closing. And Zillow's solution is that you just spend more money with us and maybe it'll get better. But what's happened is they've moved everything over to the Flex program and away from Agent Premier, and the quality of leads that they're trickling down into paid lead models is getting worse for the people who are spending money on it.
Maggie, thoughts on that topic?
I think that we've definitely serviced quite a bit of Zillow leads. And I think that the key to Zillow, and for any lead, is follow-up. And I think a lot of agents get these leads from Zillow or from any place, and they just automatically assume, okay, we showed them a house, that's not the house. But then people don't continue the conversation. Like, those types of leads take 6 months, and sometimes they can take a year, sometimes 2 years. So you really have to nurture, have a plan in place for these type of leads that you're not gonna, necessarily strike a home run right away. So it just comes, I think follow up and just consistency is key to servicing those types of leads. But I agree completely, like what you're saying is absolutely correct. Just, I do think people probably, I see it.
You've had a lot of success with it.
We've had a lot of success with those types of leads. Yeah, absolutely. You have to respond to them immediately. You have to bend over backwards immediately to make that connection, because it's not like a referral, where a referral, coming from a friend or a family member, people instantly, have that trust with you, or that connection is established. With Zillow, it's just, sometimes they'll, for instance, we had a Zillow lead come in maybe, I think it was like 4 or 5 months ago, and they came back through. This woman came back through, and I went back to my agent who initially serviced the lead, and I said, hey, have you chatted with her? She's here again. And no, she hadn't chatted with her at all. Luckily, we got the lead again. The lady not only wanted to sell her house, she wanted to buy her house and then sell her husband's house as well. So it was just, I almost was like, well, that's just luck that we got her again, because we could have, that was a missed opportunity. So I know that happens. I see that is what happens. And so you have to stay on top of your leads. You have to try and build that trust immediately. That's why they're so challenging to convert, and then oftentimes with Zillow leads is that you're competing with like 4 other agents who are also calling them at the exact same time. It's not just you, it's several other people also trying to compete for that business. So they're a headache as well. It's not an ideal way of building a business. But if you know how to work them, and you're good with follow-up, and you're good with connection, immediately building that trust with someone, then yeah, absolutely. It's a way, it can be a little piece of your business, essentially.
We got a lot of folks watching the program right now. Liz Nottingham is giving us some props right now on LinkedIn. Dan Pettit of Real Estate 3 will get to your comments. I will highlight this. You've said this on previous shows. You are fantastic at working the phone.
Yeah, that's my zone.
And that is your zone. And that is a key component with the Zillow leads.
Yes.
Knowing how to work the phone.
Yes.
Scotty Moe, we're going to weave you in the mix here. Lead generation, a key aspect to anyone's business, regardless if it's real estate, branding, investing, raising money, whatever it is. What are some of the tactics you're seeing out there on the street to help facilitate lead generation, maybe out of the box ideas that you're potentially seeing? Because let's cut to the chase. I think anyone in this market is looking for incremental leads.
Right.
I don't think out of the box is the solution right now. I think that in the box is very much where it is, meaning get face to face with people that you know, like, and trust, and have real conversations. And that's where the warm referrals are going to help you grow your business, especially in this environment, more so than chasing after a pool of people clicking on the internet who, one, you not only, as Maggie said, the challenge of building that initial rapport is huge, because if you don't do that and then can explain to them what this really is like, you're just another click away from no longer being in their life.
Maggie Gunnels getting some props right now on social from Jeremiah Bryce.
Oh, hey,
and
Jeremiah.
Elia Pister watching the program.
Yes, Eliza.
Lynchburg, Arlington, Northern Virginia in the McLean area watching the show. Crozet watching the program. Question from Dan Pettit for Maggie. Do you think the homes being built, attached and detached apartments at the corner of 53 and 618 are a good value being built in Fluvanna County?
I think a lot of those are going to be rental properties, and then there will be single family as well. I mean, yes, anything. I mean, we don't have inventory, so the fact that there will be some inventory is exciting. So yeah, I think the fact that we'll have inventory is good value for somebody. Somebody's going to be able to make that happen when there's just, there's nothing else out there right now. what were you just chatting about? Leads and
lead generation.
I wanted to actually chat about that because we chat as a team. We talk about lead generation all the time. And just what Scott was just talking about, I talk about 12 touches a day. I mean, that's a big, lofty number for an agent to do. But for instance, I was out at the dentist the other day having my teeth cleaned, and the woman I was chatting with I just brought up real estate somehow, and she was like, well, I'm actually buying a house. And so we ended up having lunch, and she's going to be buying a house. So that's how you build.
And you picked up the business.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and her rental house is going to be sold. So I'm hoping to chat with her landlord. And so in the city of Charlottesville.
So you got 2 leads
Two leads from that. And
from a teeth cleaning appointment.
Exactly.
There it is.
So when you're a realtor and you're in the industry, it's something that you always have to have top of mind, lead generation, and it just kind of has to be a part of your daily habit and routine. And then tracking, of course, what you do. But lead generation, I think, like to Scott's point, like that more organic, natural referral, that face-to-face connection is where you're going to win. Most people will win. Even just like the chamber or somebody. I had coffee with a man that does a travel agency in Fluvanna, and he's knocking on the door of 90, and he's got I know he's going to give out my name to someone. We were chatting about that, and just having coffee with that and having that human connection and trying to build that rapport with people is so important. And I think that's where we're going to have to go back to the basics in this market. And it's not going to just constantly close deals.
We have questions coming in fast. Great take right there. This one for Scott Morris. Johnny Ornalis, thank you for sharing the show. Fluvanna, Louisa, and Orange on the program now. The question again is about rates, and this one is about a Q4 rate hike, if it's in the cards, from Jonathan Galasso.
So that is the most controversial take that's out there right now from economists and people who have the serious opinions. Mine is no, that they're not going. They don't have it in them to do it. Part of I think we've seen a significant amount of softening that we will continue to see in the upcoming jobs reports. And I think there's a double-edged sword for the Fed right now in what's happening with fuel prices. There's a lot of professionals that say that fuel prices are going to create more inflation. Cost of goods are going to go up. Trickles down to the consumer. That's where it is. But it's also going to create a harder line for the consumer to cross that they're facing with depleted savings, higher credit balances, and student loans coming back into the servicing. And all of that combined, I think, is going to create a greater amount of softening, and an additional rate hike is going to cause more pain, or at least that would be the nail in the coffin for you're not getting a soft landing, you're going to get a hard landing. It's just, when does the data really catch up with everybody? Do we go through Christmas 2023 where people just finally load up on credit one last time for holiday purchases, travel and events, and then the Fed hikes the credit card balances one more time, and that does it? I don't know, but it's coming.
Comments coming in fast. Maggie Gunnels wants to jump in.
I do. So last year, history repeats itself. Last year in the fall, rates increased. And then did they not increase again in the spring? Isn't that what happened? And so, I mean, I do think it's probably going to happen. And people did a bunch of spending, to Scott's point, during the holidays, and then it slowed down, and January was silent with, consumer spending. And it's going to probably happen. History tends to, what happened last year is probably going to happen this year.
Scotty Mo?
Yeah. And I think the data is going to support the Fed cutting sooner than later, and I think the first round is going to be pretty steep. I think they'll be making 50 basis point cuts instead of 25. But we got to get there. And I said originally that I thought that we would see the data by the fourth quarter. I still think that's the case, but we may not see a messaging from the Fed that's going to significantly affect the bond market until first quarter.
Maggie Gunnels and Scott Morris, questions are coming in. Viewers and listeners, ask questions, put them in the feed. We will relay them live on air. This is a great question from Spencer Thomas, who's watching the program. For someone with good credit and a fantastic portfolio where debt is in check, can you offer some insight into how many points above market an investor rate is looking at these days? That's a great one.
Anywhere from 0.5% to 0.75%.
So we're talking like flirting with 9, 8.5.
No, below 8. You're
Okay.
on an investment purchase. Yeah, you're below 8% or that, or thereabouts, depending. Now, the property makes a difference as well. There could be additional LLPAs, so loan level price adjustments from Fannie Freddie based on the type of property. A condo is certainly going to price worse than a single family at certain price ranges, manufactured as well, same problem. Anything that gets a heavier LLPA, loan level price adjustment based on the property type, because it maybe doesn't appreciate as well or doesn't hold the same long-term value as a single family detached.
Maggie Gunnels, are you seeing, and we'll welcome Alex Arst to the program. He is watching at Keswick Call as we speak. Are you seeing investors in the market?
Absolutely. The problem with investors right now is they'll say they have somebody right now we're working with. He's like, I've got $200,000 in cash I want to spend. He doesn't want to take out debt. He wants to use all of his cash. And I mean, it's, what do we buy? What does he buy? And so it's a hard, that used to be like your entry level price point, or even not even your entry level. That kind of was your slightly above entry. And there's nothing. So it's hard for investors to find stuff right now. It's just like everybody else. And so, we definitely have investors right now, and we are finding deals. There are still deals to be found. It's just, lots of sleuthing.
Are you seeing off-market deals? Is that what you're bringing to your investors?
Yes, I have. Recently, we've had, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about them, but internal brokerage sales. Just within our broker, that even just within our office, that people just said they don't even, for whatever reason, there was one recently that's pending now, but it was a tenant had lived there for the last 15 years. It had been hoarded in. It's completely destroyed on the inside. They didn't want interior showings. No one was allowed to see inside. And so we got the information on the house. You could see the old listing, but we sent it off to all of our investors, and you had to buy it sight unseen, kind of like you do when you buy property at the courthouse.
Oh yeah.
And so we had somebody called me, and he's like, Maggie, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention, but how am I supposed to buy this house without seeing it? And I was like, well, it's not the one for you, but trust me, there's going to be somebody who's comfortable with that, and we'll be able to do the due diligence. We'll be able to put the numbers and make the numbers work for them. And they did. It was gone within 24 hours, even just being an internal broker sale. Not even exposed to the market. So there's another, I bought a house recently that was another sale within our brokerage. It was another hoarded house, and the woman that owned it did not want people really coming inside. So they let 2 people come in, which one was me and one was somebody else.
Dang.
And I wrote her an offer that day. And then another house right now, I'm probably going to be buying another house here soon. Hopefully, we'll see, in the city. And another investor client of mine, I went to him and I said, hey, are you going to sell any of your inventory? He owns a ton of real estate. And he was like, well, actually. And so we're working on a deal right now. So at any rate, yeah, absolutely. We're seeing off-market deals. We're seeing, deals happen. They're just, again, they're harder to find than you might typically, a couple of years ago.
Scotty Moe?
So to Maggie's point of leads and that sort of thing, and in conjunction with what she's saying here, so if you have someone who holds a lot of properties, now's the time to be reaching out to them. There's a lot of people who are trying to downsize their portfolio, especially if they've got a property that maybe they've had issues with.
Why is that?
Because price points are at their peak.
Values are fantastic.
I know what this person's
competition.
motivation. I know what this investor's motivation was, but I just was curious Like generally, what do you think? It's just
across,
it's a good pricing right now.
It's a good time for them to get rid of things that they don't want,
Right.
for whatever reason that they don't want it. And it also, if you're an investor who's out there, there are still deals. They're not the same deal that they were 36 months ago, but part of it you may need to open your mindset to the fact that you're going to go in and take an L for the first 12 to 24 months before you can refinance it into a lower rate, make it cash flow better. But at that point, you've also established quite a bit of equity. So it's still very much a good time to go in and buy as an investor. And if you're somebody who is maybe transitioning from your first primary and you want to convert that into a rental, and the next purchase we can make a primary. So you can look at upgrading and still making things work in your specific situation, especially if you're carrying a low interest rate on that primary. And one of the things that we talked about coming into the show was if someone has a low interest rate.
Oh, is this assumable?
Is getting into.
Can I set the stage real quick?
Set the stage.
Yeah. So this was Jason Howard on Rio Road. Welcome to the program. James Watson, Lottie Murray. Hello. Welcome to the program. Aspiring restaurateur Nelson Lanza watching the program. MJR Cat, Matt Neese, Dean Russell, Woody Fincham, Jamie Turner, Dr. Wolf, Holly Foster, Sarah Hill Buchensky. Realtors, I think this is about to be a lesson and perhaps a topic that a lot of folks don't know that well. Assumable mortgages was sent to me by a very sophisticated investor. We call him, because he prefers his anonymity, we call him Anonymous or Deep Throat. He is a macro finance guy that legitimately is negotiating with like heads of countries across the world, and that's literally no BS. Okay, he said this morning he wanted to talk assumable mortgages with you, Scott Morris. So why don't we do this at like a 7th or 8th grade level for the viewers and listeners here? Because this is getting, this is a fairly complicated topic here.
So I have a question that's often asked about this is, can a non-veteran, and one of Deep Throat's scenarios specifically was about assumable VA loans. Can a non-veteran assume a veteran's loan? The answer is yes. Now, if you're an agent who is helping the transaction, if you're on the buy side or the sell side, you want to assume that you're probably going to need around 60 days for this. And the reason for that is the servicer who is carrying the existing loan has to qualify the borrower and underwrite, and they are not built mechanically the same way for that transaction, the same way that a purchase organization is, or refinance, or just any independent mortgage banker broker. In addition to that, there's some challenges for the veteran. So if someone has an assumable loan that they owe at 3%, that they owe $200,000 on, they're selling a $500,000 property, their original entitlement cannot be released back to them if that loan is not closed. So if they need to go and buy $1 million home and they want to do it with 100% of their guarantee, they're not going to be able to do that if they're selling their existing property and taking the $300,000 cash differential into the next transaction. They can use that money to put down, and depending on what they qualify, they may be able to make it work. But their guarantee is tied to that, so it may not always be in the veteran's best interest to leave the loan assumable. Title company is also going to be heavily involved in the transaction and helping execute it. Everybody's just going to need more time. It's going to feel clunky because it's just not something that's commonplace. One of the other questions specific to a Deep Throat's question was using a second to finance the difference. So let's say that $300,000, the guy who's assuming it doesn't have that cash sitting around. So could they borrow that money to help execute the loan? And the answer is no. They can't carry a second in. They need to be paying the difference in cash.
Maggie, you want to jump in on this topic?
Well, we get people, this year we sold a property, and the issue was just how difficult it was. And they didn't want to go through the process, and they didn't want to and it's unfortunate because the rate, I think it was like 2.25 or something like that.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
It was a great rate, and, but it was the difference between how much, they'd have to bring in cash to make the difference, so it just didn't work. So I don't think a lot of people know about this topic because it's not really that, it's sold as a benefit to these loans, but it's not really a benefit that people can typically
It's
capitalize
good advertising.
on. Right. Does it really come to fruition that often? No. So I don't think in my 17 years, I've ever seen one closed. But you do hear people talk about them. I mean, how often? You would see it more than I would.
I would never see it because it's something that they can't borrow.
The original.
So whoever the current servicer is. So maybe not even.
Right.
So let's say the loan is originated and then it's sold to PennyMac, and PennyMac is the servicer that collects the money, and they log in, they get their printer statement, sends you the mailer every month. PennyMac's servicing department is actually who would then qualify, and maybe they run it through their underwriting on their wholesale division or something to that effect. But the bottom line is it's just not something that these companies are built to do, so it's going to be clunky.
This comment is coming. You have colleagues of yours watching the program. Michael Buchensky watching the show right now.
I love
Michael Buchensky says you can assume, but if they sell it for $400,000, you're assuming a $300,000. The buyer is responsible for the difference. He also says he's never seen one close in his 23 years of the mortgage business.
Yeah.
Michael Buchensky also adds this. He expects rates to drop before the 2024 election. He says his prediction, rates will come down significantly so the current administration can show how well we are doing. Not a political commentary, but more to Scott's point that buy now and we will be able to refinance within the year. Any thoughts on that, Scott Morris?
Yeah, I've thought that, but I think that there's gonna be other. So, not getting too political, but the Saudis don't like Biden. You're gonna see gas prices are gonna go higher and stay higher going through the election cycle, and this happened right before the midterms. And it 100% has to do with other countries' influence, financial influence on what they'd like to see in political change in the United States. That is a fact. We will see rates drop. There will be, I'm sure there already is people advocating inside of this administration to the Fed in order to do it, but the Fed's two priorities are inflation and jobs. They want to see those things be healthy, meaning inflation needs to come down, and they would like to see it come down without a huge loss in the job market. I think there is a lot of underreported unemployment in the United States due to the shift into the gig economy from the time that the pandemic started until now, in combination with the fact that those people already are off of the payrolls and they can't file in the same manner, especially in certain states. Some states are more accommodating, like California, but they have a ton of fraud. So that's why some of the unemployment numbers get corrections every week after about a week to 2 weeks after they've actually released the numbers.
Maggie Gunnels, thoughts on that, or do you want to go to the next topic that's come in?
I just wish it would be so interesting if we could actually, like they do in Europe, transfer your mortgage from property to property. And so if you qualified, I guess kind of like you do with a line of credit, or because that's what I'll typically do is go get some type of commercial extended line, and I can just go not risk my own money and go and buy property that way, and I don't have to reapply. They've already given me an amount of money that I can go spend. But you can't transfer your mortgage from property to property, or if you let's just say you do only spend $300 of $600 that you're qualified for, you can't, I wish there were more of I guess it's because it's a money-making business, and you probably that would. And
there's a risk tolerance there. I mean, that the lenders, if we're just moving your debt to a new property without, I think the qualification process would get much more complicated.
Yeah, they'd have to do due diligence on the property the next property that you're wanting to buy. But to me, I'm like, figure it out. That's not that complicated. You already have to do the due diligence if you're buying it for a new mortgage, but I get what you're saying. I don't know. I just wish there were more
I think
ways.
Americans' willingness to walk away from their debt that would be probably a bad. I think there'd be a lot of failure, and the Fed would have to step in and change our system that dramatically at this point.
Comments coming in. This one from Jason on Ryle Road. Michael Buchensky, you're in the slot. Michael Pruitt, Board of Supervisor candidate. Frankly, he's going to be the Scottsville District Representative, so he's going to be on the board. Is watching the program now. Marlene Jones, hello. Avon is watching the program. Houston, one of your happy clients.
Guys, how are y'all?
From our home in Richmond. Julian Freeman, hello. Jason wants to know about student loan debt. Student loan debt payments are now about to start going. I believe it's October when the student loan debt payments are going to uptick, and they want your take, Jason does, from both you guys on how this could impact the economy. Maggie, why don't you go first on this one?
So I feel like Scott can maybe talk more about the economy part. I don't know if I should say my opinion.
Oh, don't hold. You're not one to hold back, Maggie.
I mean,
that's why you're good on a talk show.
All right,
And Scott, you're next on this.
Can I really? Because I feel like I probably.
Hey, it's however you want to handle this. The show is yours. A lot of people watch this.
A bunch of baloney. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So, forgive me if you do not agree with me, but okay. I think it's a bunch of baloney.
You think they should have been paying the student loan debt all along?
Are you kidding me? Okay. I'm sorry. No. I can't.
And do you want to leave that though, or do you want to go down this rabbit hole?
I don't agree with that at all. I just think, I don't know. I was lucky enough, granted, I was very lucky enough to have my parents pay for college.
Okay.
And I did figure out ways to finish college early to save the money. I was like, this is how I can do it in 3 years, and this is how you can do it to save money. And I brought in a lot of college credit before I went to college, but my ex-husband, he did not. He came from a different, and he paid, immediately out of college, he had, $40,000 or $50,000 worth of debt, which I know it's different nowadays. But I remember thinking, okay, well, let's just get this done. And we figured out a way, and we got it done, I think, in 2 years, making no money, figuring out ways to make extra money.
You sacrificed.
Yes. Yeah. That is against my core value system to have the government step into your situation. If you want to go to college, it's a privilege, right? Everybody should be able to access that privilege, but that's why there are loans and grants, and that's what John did. Is he went and got a lot of grant money. He didn't actually. I know that he went to the college, the university that he went to, because it was less expensive than other options that he had gotten into, and they also had good programs for him. I just don't. Sorry, it goes against my.
No, you got a lot of people agreeing with you. Sarah Hill Buchensky watching the program, SHB. She says, "I'm with you, Maggie," with multiple exclamation points. You take a loan. You pay it back.
Thank you.
You got Grayson watching the program. Hip, hip, hooray. If you take a loan, you don't look for a lifeline and not pay your bills.
No.
On another Facebook page, this one's from Lauren. I paid back $113,000 of student loan debt in less than 5 years. The fact that people are not paying their bills really pisses me off.
Me too.
I have a feeling Scott Morris is going to have a take on this one here.
Yeah. You already live in a socialist country, whether you like it or not. And you have a system that is predatory allowing universities to prey on the young consumer for college cost. And
break that down, what you mean by that.
Okay. You have people reaching out to help when someone says, well, let's say from the application process forward, there's a lot of opportunity for the college, the universities themselves, to say, hey, you can have, here's what you need to do to get in. And they push the debt because that's what allowed them to charge so much money to begin with. It's a predatory system, and it's mostly predatory among a lower income class of individual. And so, I agree that everybody should be paying them back, but the system is already so broken that that's not what you're going to get. Because if you've got universities charging people close to six figures for a degree that they're never going to make enough money to pay back, and then you have the government itself instilling rules on schools that teachers must have graduate degrees to teach certain courses or certain types of education, but at the same time you're not going to pay them more than $60,000 a year. The system be broke.
I agree. What you're talking
But
about, I
to
feel
the-
like is two separate. Well, maybe it's not, but it kind of a. I
You
do
can't-
remember a woman I met one time who came from, similar to my ex's background. And I remember she was telling me about a nursing program that she did. And she signed up for this nursing program that was not inexpensive. It was like $30,000 or something very expensive through some online school. I don't know what it was. And she realized after she completed the course and everything that it wasn't what she thought it was. And she had to go spend a whole other set of money to then actually get the nursing program that she wanted. But I have a hard time believing, when I at least know my sphere and the people that I grew up with, for instance, they don't need help paying their school loans back. And if they went and took a degree out that doesn't make them money, then that's their problem.
Michael Buchensky put that comment literally on the feed right here. You'll appreciate this from Buchensky. He says if you get a degree in basket weaving, then you've basically made your own bank.
I'm not talking about basket weaving. I'm talking about specific to police. So some of the courses and classes that are highly recommended in that field cost a lot of money that sometimes they don't get paid back from their employer. And I think specifically to teachers, the cost to get, and social workers, the cost to get those degrees, which everybody says is just so effing important, is not then paid by the same institutions that are requiring them.
Jamie Turner, Matt, let me throw this. Jamie Turner, the real estate investor, some have dubbed the student loans the quiet stimulus. The student loan relief. Now, I got to offer the other side, and then
see that.
let me throw this to the other side.
So
and
if
then you jump in.
you're somebody out there who
It's a hot topic.
who has
Maybe perhaps
who
a
has
little
student loans, the first thing that you need to do is contact the servicer themselves and see and work to get into an income-based repayment schedule. Now, here's the thing: you're never going to pay those loans back
That's what I'm
at those
saying.
levels.
Yeah.
But that's all part of this. You know, I get. Look, I love the small government, this shouldn't be the way it is concept, but we are so far down that road that if you can't shift your mindset at this point, we can cry about it all we want. It ain't changing the way it is.
I don't think that's the solution, though. I don't think that's the solution of just wiping it all. Like, there should be other ways to be able to. I agree with you. If you want to be a teacher and you get paid what you get paid, which is not fantastic, and then you have to go take a huge chunk of debt out to make that happen, then that doesn't really make sense. But I do think, like, to what you were saying, is that college is so important, and it is, but like community college is a good first
I don't
step.
think college is important at all.
It can be.
Sure.
Well, I mean,
I
if
don't
you're
need
if
to
you're
go to college to sell real estate
Right.
necessarily.
It
Like,
depends on what the profession you're pursuing. If you're a
Right.
doctor, if you're an attorney, if you're an engineer, college is important. But for what we do, where we get out of bed, we're entrepreneurs, we're looking for opportunity, to Scott's point, that is not needed. It's more you need the degree in street smarts.
That's
Or-
why
or-
I finished college quickly. I was so sick of
You
being
were
in college,
bored.
and I wanted to make money.
You were bored and you were ready to hustle. You're a hustler, he's a hustler, I'm a hustler.
Or in the trades, like, I'm just saying college isn't the end-all, be-all answer, be-all, end-all, but for certain degrees and requirements, I think it's overpriced, oversold, and it's predatory upon the people that it's trying to serve. And the government
I
allowed it to
disagree
get
with
that
you.
way by putting these loans in place.
SHB agrees with you. Sarah Hill, she says, how about the government hold the universities accountable? A point
I-
that
that-
you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
The flip
Yes.
side, Olivia Branch, Queen of Keswick, there are those whose education never equaled income earnings. I support reduced interest for those who are truly struggling with payments.
Yeah, sure.
She throws that out there. Maria Marshall Barnes, welcome to the program. This is an extremely hot topic. I'm not able to keep up with topics right here.
White. It's not so black and white. There are obviously, like, it's not this, like, to what it's not. Generally, I think it's a bad precedent to just say you don't have to pay it back. I don't like that. I think that goes against the grain of my DNA.
All right, how about this then? Scott, the economics of it. With these payments starting up again, how is that going to impact housing? How about that one right there?
So it's going to take the entry-level price point borrower and push them further away from
Buying a house.
Buying a house. And
Explain why.
because if so we have to qualify for your loans when they're in deferment. We can count 0.5%, depending on what specific program and how we're going about it against you. For veterans, it can be even a little bit less. But once you get back into a payment that you that's reported on the credit report that you have to make, you're going to have some challenges in getting qualified. So that's why I highly suggest that you go out and you get yourself in an income-driven repayment program with your current servicer.
This is a hell of a comment right here from the guy who brought up the topic, and Jason Howard on Rio Road. He says, it's interesting the cost difference between a 4-year degree and a CDLA, when the CDL almost guarantees you have employment once you are certified. Not just employment, hell of a comment from Jason Howard, but significant 6-figure employment for a CDLA.
Forgive me, what is this?
It's a class. It's people who drive tractor
Yeah.
trailers with air brakes.
They're stacking
FedEx
paper.
and UPS, like the drivers make, in certain areas, make pretty good money.
Is
like,
the FedEx guy CDLA? I don't think
thought
the
maybe it was the full story.
FedEx, it's going to depend. Like they've got
depends
different,
on the size of the truck.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the truck's got to have air brakes, and so your normal like UPS truck or FedEx delivery, no is the answer. But like for your over the road truckers, stuff like that, yeah, absolutely. That's or not just over the road, but your guys who like look at some of the stuff that's driven around by the city or
Yeah.
dump trucks, depending on the weight rating and those types of things.
You should highlight, and then we'll get Maggie in the mix, and Buchensky makes the point, Michael, that the folks that are really going to stack paper, which is a point Scott has made all along, are the trades, the electricians, the plumbers. There's not enough of them. They're all retiring, and
Yes.
anyone who gets in this
Yes.
type of work over the next decade is going to mint money. I totally agree with that.
Absolutely.
You should highlight what we were talking about a couple weeks ago with the crane operator, the tugboat captains, those type of professions, and what they're minting.
They're also so look. If you're a lender, you need to have a niche, and that's the same thing with these trades. If you are a guy who specifically worked towards skyscraper placement, crane work, you make probably $300,000 a year because there's not a lot of the U's out there. Now, that goes to, and what Brzezinski's saying is that's also going to apply to plumbers and carpenters and anybody who does a high level of work. There's a little bit of rub there. There's some very, very good carpenters who are not good businessmen. And you may have to build a team to protect yourself from yourself in order to create that level of success.
That's good advice.
But it's out there. If you can be a fantastic plumber and businessman, and you can get in at the age of, in your early 20s, yes, I think that you're going to be in a fantastic place 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Maggie Gunnels.
I agree completely. I don't like the idea of putting the burden on the taxpayers when really it should be, like, it's not such a black and white topic, but really it should be like the universities or like the people that are predators in this situation. And, like the girl with the nursing school thing where she goes and spends 30 grand on a nursing program she didn't actually need. And somebody should have advised her correctly. But I don't know.
Well, that goes to this. I mean, a couple years ago, their charter schools. So teenagers who were getting into federal student loan debt to try to get out of a community and go to school somewhere, and then the schools would shut down in the process. And I've talked to multiple people in my side of the business with what I do now, and it's like, dude, you're never gonna There was some forgiveness to some of those, but it didn't apply to everything and everyone. They're all being tracked. And then that also applied to kids coming out of high school who were maybe trying to pursue a dream in athletics and get into a greater school, and they took on student loan debt to get into a postgraduate program. And it's just very challenging and very predatory with the age group, the demographic, and how and why they go about it.
I got a buddy who's a tugboat captain, John Blair and Stanton. Welcome to the program. I got a buddy who's a tugboat captain. He's clearing, he's almost at 300K. He told me he had a couple beverages. We were tossing a few back, and he got a little braggadocious. Right under 300K. He legitimately is working 2 days a week.
Where does he?
Virginia Beach, Norfolk area.
Wow.
3 days a week, or 2 days a week, just under $300,000. Tugboat captain. Now, Scott's made this point multiple times. You have to there's certifications to get to this level. And it took him a while to get to this point. He did not come immediately out of the gate doing this. And to pay his dues, he was working essentially the crappy shifts early on, where he was away from his family, weekend work. But now it's 2 days a week during the Monday through Friday slot. He's coaching all his kids' teams. They have an investment property at the beach down where you're at. And they're living the dream. His better half stay at home, living the dream. Stephanie Wells Rhodes is watching on LinkedIn, and she says, I could not be prouder of my boy, Brennan Rhodes, who did not go to college, but is absolutely killing it right now in the HVAC industry. Yes. The HVAC folks are stacking paper.
I'm going to say that.
Stephanie, we had one of your husband's colleagues, Glenn, in this office I'd say about 10 days ago. And she says he did go to K-Tech to get his journeyman's license, though. K-Tech is something you've been hugely in favor of, Scotty Moe, on this program right now. The show is absolutely on fire right now.
Hairdressers and all sorts of things. I have so many friends that did K-Tech through Fluvanna County High School, and I have a handful of friends that started businesses through hair, it'll take me 9 months to get in with some of them to get my hair done if I wanted to, and they did it through K-Tech or community college. I hate when I hear people talk
throwing shade.
Yes, going to like PVCC or going to
Me
K-Tech. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
I think the mindset, and he's made this point, I think that mindset is starting to shift, and I almost think that the shade now is going to the 4-year that are coming out $250,000 in debt, and they're coming out with the degree that has, and I'm not trying to throw shade on degrees, but no kind of like financial practicality, where someone's like $250,000 in student loan debt and they're, I don't want to pick a degree and piss people off. I mean, say like, what's an art history major doing?
Right.
Art history major is probably going to graduate school and getting more student loan debt, right?
To teach art history.
That's what I'm saying. And then the graduate school
literally
degree.
Like what people. So
no shade on art history.
Getting a degree in art history is a great one. Just different history degrees in general. You're going
to graduate school.
You're learning about the pyramids, so you can teach about the pyramids to people who want to learn about it's literally a pyramid scheme.
Oh, Scotty Morris right there. Jamie Turner, I will make sure my kids are more open to other avenues such as trades or unique skill sets that don't require a degree. I literally said this to my wife, that if our 2 boys choose not to go to college, that is not the end of the world for us or for me. But when we were growing up, and we're all relatively the same age, if our parents, at least my parents, were like, you have no choice.
Absolutely.
You have to go. There's no for it. You're going.
Absolutely.
That mindset has shifted, and I think it's the cost of carrying the debt service with these degrees. This comment has come in, and this is an extremely good one. This is for Scott. Do we see an opportunity for rates dropping in that 5 to 5 range within the year, Scott?
What? Sorry.
I don't think it takes a lot to get there, and part of that has to do with the shrinking yield spread between mortgage rates and the U.S. 10-year, or the widening.
Excuse me.
I think if we can get down closer to 3.25, so the full 1% move in the U.S. 10-year, we get below 6. And that is going to be the key to getting us where we want to go. Or at least we get into the if we can get to, I think 6.25 is really where, imagine breaking a lug nut. That's where you get the first little bit of movement in the inventory market, is if we get below 6.5. And from there, it only gets better as we get closer to 5.5.
Maggie Gunnels, that was an emphatic no from you.
I mean, Scott knows more, I feel like, economics, the dynamics than I do. You can speak to it better than me, but I don't know why would rates go down right now? I mean, I feel like that's going to only put a burden on the housing market further. And I love when you said 6.25, I'm like, that would be great, but I know even people were freaking out about that.
Sure, but a great question is, if you didn't buy at 5.5, do you regret that now because it was too high?
Can I tell you that
100%.
we bought a house then, And I remember John saying to me, should we be doing this right now? And I was like, absolutely, secure debt, because it's only going to go up. And so, and I think we ended up getting in the low fives at that point. And that was right when rates had gone up, like had it initially, was it spring? When did that happen? I can't remember.
Rates started going up halfway through Q2 2022.
Yeah.
Yes. So it was, yeah, that's right. Because we bought that, we missed it. We did an off-market deal. A lady called me about selling a house, and I was like, let's buy that house, because we needed to get a house. And anyways, she took 3 weeks to review the contract.
And the rates moved?
And the rates moved.
Yeah.
And he was like, should we still be doing this? And I'm like, yes, because we need to have another house for you to go move into.
Maggie, that's hilarious. There's some people watching here, Maggie Gunnels.
I know, I'm being bad, but that's what happened. And so I'm very grateful that we secured debt, and we didn't wait, because why? It's always a good time to buy, always.
I mean,
Always.
I would even say this, and I'll throw this to Scott. I would even say it's a good time to buy a house literally right now with
Yes.
rates. What are we in the mid sevens?
Yeah, we're seeing some negative reprice today, but it's a little bit worse.
People say that's crazy that it's a good time to buy a house right now in the mid sevens. I say no, it's not. And what I've highlighted is this data science school at UVA, the biotech school at UVA, and Jesus, the Amazon.
That's what I was going to say.
$11 billion.
Right.
Dude, I talked to one of the supervisors at Louisa. They're expecting 1,200 direct and indirect jobs
How can I get in
from
touch with them?
outside the market, many of them coming to Central Virginia. 1,200 additional
Crazy.
people come. Okay, let's just use a conservative number. Let's very conservative number. UVA has straight up on the record said it's 2,000 to 3,000 incremental jobs, not from Central Virginia, strictly for biotech. 2,000 to 3,000. We know data science is roughly 3,000 to 4,000, and then supervisor saying 1,200 for Louisa. That's going to be in the next 36 months,
Yeah.
24 to 36 months. Where are those people going to live?
I don't know.
What are they going to
Richmond,
buy?
They're going to go to Richmond.
Is that what it's going to be?
Yeah, I think a lot of those Louisa people look at Richmond. They might look in Culpeper. They might look Fredericksburg.
And people may not
Mineral.
want to hear this. What I think is going to happen is, and Scott, your thoughts is, these people taking these jobs or having these jobs moving to the area are going to be like top 10 percenters from an earning standpoint. They are going to be taking the homes from the rest of the financial totem pole. And the rest of the financial totem pole, I hate to say this, is probably going to get gentrified out of this area in some capacity.
I know.
And that is going to drive values for houses. So that's when we say, when is a good time to buy?
Always.
Yesterday was a good time to
Yeah,
buy.
always.
Your thoughts on
So
this?
yeah, there was I've seen it in print 2 or 3 times. I think there was a Zillow executive interview. There was some Forbes article also. The place to buy right now is anywhere where there's continued growth and all existing scarcity. Well, that is what the area that we are in right now. So I've said, if you're an investor, if you can take the L for 12 months, 24 months, but make it make sense, now's the time to get in. If you're a first-time home buyer and you qualify, stop focusing about all these other factors that your mother's brother's sister's cousin told you that you shouldn't be doing this because of, and trust the professionals that are telling you this is what you should do.
There it is.
Because if you do it now, you're going to be in a better position 12 to 24 months from now, and then potentially for the next 30 years or the rest of your life, because you got in and did it, you built some equity, then you lowered your payment, and there's a million reasons why the answer is yes.
Always.
But the answers to no are always coming from people who are playing that they think they know better game, but they're not living your life, bro.
Yeah, well said. Maggie, well said.
Yesterday I talked to a woman, and it just broke my heart. She has been renting. She's got to be in her like mid-50s, and she's never bought a home. She's rented her whole life, and she was just telling me she never thought it was possible for herself. And I just was like, why are you renting? Like, let's talk and just see if there is a plan that we can put into play for a year or 2 years or whatever it is. And she's like, but why would I do that? Because you can secure your monthly payment. You can secure your housing. She's now in a housing crisis
While
situation.
building a savings account
Yes.
called equity.
Exactly. So I feel like owning real estate, like I said, as much leverage, debt, buy it, hold it, figure out ways. We've had this conversation, you know, when you and I both bought our first homes, we
should tell that story. You want to tell it?
Yes, the first time that I ever bought a house, and Jerry's story is, I think, almost identical to mine.
I bought it the absolute worst time humanly possible.
Worst time historically ever, which was like fall of 2007, or wasn't that when you bought too? That's when we bought.
I bought literally, this was I'd say 2008 early, and then when it was like, there were 5 phases at the Villas at Southern Ridge. I got in phase 1 with the idea each phase would have $5,000 of appreciation. So when I bought it in phase 1 of the Villas, it's a condo complex down Fifth Street and Extended. It literally was, I mean, I guess I could say, the ghetto converted into condos is what that was.
Right.
And every phase was going to have $5,000 of appreciation for each phase. Phase 1 happened. Phase 2, the condos dropped like $45,000 in value.
I remember
Literally.
going to an event that they had all the realtors. It was one of the first events. I went there to that event.
It was Real Estate 3.
Yes.
It was Rick Spagoni, Jeff Gaffney, and Magnus Spagoni. Dan Pettit was there watching the program.
Yes,
But here's what the crazy thing, guys, this is literally what's happened. I bought mine for, I think it was like $182,000. They're now trading for $235,000.
Right.
So if you hold it and you rent it and you don't take the loss and you figure out how to pay off the student loans in 2 years, like you said, you just figure it out.
Yeah,
you put your mind
path
something
forward.
to it. Now we're looking at, what's the appreciation of that? You're better at math than I am. You're looking at $50,000 of appreciation on something that was purchased at basically $180,000. That's like a 42% appreciation. Now that's not the same level of appreciation of a single family detached, but at the same time, that's all I could afford.
Which goes
That's
to
what
my
I could
point
afford.
on why these LLPAs exist. So condos are always going to, there's going to seem like there's more cost. Same thing with manufactured, because they don't appreciate at the same rate as
it didn't appreciate, but that's all I could afford.
Love a double wide. I'm just going to say some of the best investments I've ever made have been on double wides.
Okay, tell us.
Just property that we've bought at courthouse that we bought sight unseen and just knew the numbers made sense. I mean, I even think one of the double wides that we sold recently, I think I saw it was a mineral. I think I traded again recently for like $300, which is obscene.
I will say this, yes. I think that we went through a period where there was an extreme amount of value in that space. I think it's getting more difficult, especially when 3 years ago, even if somebody had told me,
you're talking double wides?
Yeah. Hey, there's this double wide I want to buy. It's $300,000 on 5 acres. I like the alarms are ringing. I'm well, it's never going to appraise.
Yeah. I'll buy a double wide if it's $50,000.
Yeah. I'm sure it's amazing. It's never going to appraise. And now it's like it will appraise, but at the same time, it's that appreciation in those properties is not going to be the same that we've seen with everything else in the long term.
Yeah, and just to your point about the condo that you bought, the first house that we bought was in the fall of 2007, and we were really excited because that house was originally for sale for like $240,000 because that's what they were typically going at in 2006, 2005.
Was this at the lake?
This was at the lake,
okay.
And I think they reduced it to like $215,000, and we were like, oh, that's exciting. I didn't want to rent. I just knew that I just did not want to rent.
Yeah.
Right? And I had dogs. I just didn't want to go there. I wanted to paint my walls. And so we bought a house, and then all of a sudden over the next 10 years that house dropped, I think as low as like $120,000. But now it's worth probably $365,000.
That's what I'm saying. This goes to...
We still own it. We had it rented out. We moved.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like, I've been there. I've held this property. It's a rental now. It's renting for $2,000 a month, which is crazy to say. I've had this property for 17 years because I did 7 years at the Villas, 7 years at Redfields, and now I'm 3 years in Keswick. So 17 years. Of that 17 years, I think every single month of that 17 years, I had at least one of those rooms rented. Yeah. To offset the mortgage overhead.
That's what I did. That's what we did. That's right. So you did that as well. I think we got the mortgage, and I mean, neither one of us were really making much money.
Dude, I was making nothing.
I think like $35,000, or like, I mean, it was low. Like that's
when I bought that is when I launched this business, and I had no clients for 6 months. Right. I swear to God, my food was a double cheeseburger from McDonald's, or I was going to the Panda Garden Buffet on Emmett Street, remember it by Lambeth, for the $5.95 lunch buffet, and I swear was stealing food from the buffet in Ziploc bags. I was literally taking food, scraping it off my plate, and putting it in Ziploc bags and taking it home. One of your colleagues is watching, Ricardo Duran. He says, this is phenomenal advice from both Scott and Maggie. He says a great appreciation rate is between 3 and 5%, and Virginia has had a consistent 3% home appreciation every year, which means it's definitely a good time to buy and build equity. Fantastic comment right there. Your colleagues are watching left and right over here. Scotty Moe, jump in.
I think that if you can buy at an entry point, this really first-time buyers are the people who I'm seeing the most roll off with, to where they say, hey, we're just going to rent something right now.
They've given up.
Yeah. And this goes also to my Zillow's telling you, well, it's not working, give us some more money. Because those are the people that are seeing the people who are going to have the most success in this market are the people who already own real estate. That's going to be the role in the future as well. The reason that KB Homes and Ryan and all of these builders have such a great runway is because there's so much inventory that's trapped, and they're going to get their numbers, and they're seeing them increase month over month in different markets and different pockets across the country. But in an area like Charlottesville, Fluvanna, Central Virginia, Culpeper, you're going to see continued appreciation because scarcity and growth are what's going to continue to drive appreciation in this market.
No doubt. And I can't even, I'm having legitimately, I think about this often. Where are 8,000 new citizens with deep six-figure jobs going to live? Seriously.
Yeah.
How many, do you have this number? Any of the realtors have this number? How many active listings do we have on the MLS right now? Keith said last week it was 44.
I believe it.
44 active listings.
Yeah.
What happens if we have 8,000 families come to this area in a 24-month period?
That's why I said the future in real estate in this region is going to be whoever owns the land and builds on the land. It's builders, because we don't have inventory. We're not going to get inventory. We're going to have to build it.
That's not happening. That's not happening right now.
I don't think, I agree with him.
That's the problem.
The governments are keeping it from happening.
That's the problem too, is that there is not, and it's like for the good or the bad. It's good that we don't have suburban sprawl in our region, but I think at least growing up in Northern Virginia, it's like a whole different world up there.
Fredericksburg, Northern Virginia, for sure. This is a hell of a question from Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. How does the panel differentiate between housing appreciation and gentrification? Who wants to go on that one? Scott, you want to go on that one first?
I mean, I don't know what we're saying about as far as differentiate. I mean, it's something that I've talked about, and I said last week on the show.
Are they one and the same?
Yeah, of course they are. And it goes into the University of Virginia's, what they say versus what they do are two entirely different things when it comes to affordability and protecting culture inside of the city.
Yeah. I think that's true. So he's basically saying UVA is all about affordability and workforce housing, yet they're buying properties, taking them off the tax rolls, and essentially hoarding real estate and not necessarily creating any workforce housing. That's pretty much what's happening. That's why I think we as citizens should be huge proponents of the payment in lieu of taxes, a pilot program where UVA essentially just strokes a check to the jurisdictions where they have the largest real estate holdings and say, here's money that you can use for your yearly budget. That's happening at a lot of places, including what Harvard is doing with the Cambridge and Boston area. You guys, this has been a blast. We're at 11:24 right now, and I want you guys to go anywhere you want on any topic you want. I will adapt to you. Maggie Gunnels, the show is yours. Ladies first. Anything you want to cover?
I just would say that if you are looking to buy or sell in the region, my team and I would love to help you. We have loads of experience, we are available, we communicate, and we are great real estate advisors. So please do reach out to my team, the Gunnels Group.
Love it. I love it. Scotty Moe?
If you're an agent, whether an old agent or a new agent, or when I say old, I mean been in the business for some time, and these lead source problems due to the limited inventory, we're only going to get so many people qualified to buy who can then go out and buy the 7 houses that are available. The warmer referrals are going to go through your more traditional networking sources. And if you're a new agent who just complains about leads and that sort of thing, take some time to do some inventory. And how many contacts do you have in your phone? And how many of those people actually know that you're you're in real estate now. And I don't mean just because you posted something on social media and now that human being that's also in your phone is supposed to see that and put these two things together, that they're a contact of yours, and reach out to you and you're going to sell their home. You need to make direct contact with the people in your life that you could do the most for, because you're already someone who they know, like, and trust. So why not have them work with you rather than a stranger?
Scott Morris dropping bombs over there. Michael Fisher in the Ross Mortgage office, part of your team, watching the program, giving you a lot of props right now. Wanda Fielding is throwing up the heart emojis for Maggie Gunnels over there.
Wanda sent me an awesome, Scott, her husband, who is a police officer in Fluvanna for many, many years. I think he still is. Sent me an amazing referral earlier this year. Love Wanda.
Props to Wanda.
A young lady.
I love it. I love it. Judah Wickhauer, you get some props. The show is all about Q&A with you, the viewer and listener. If we didn't get to your comments, I'm sorry. There were so many comments and questions that came in. I literally had a hard time keeping track on today's program. I think that is a tribute to Scott and to Maggie on the panel. This is a fantastic dynamic on the show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. I just pretty much have to keep the conversation going. One of my favorite things that I do professionally is literally sitting here and doing these programs. It's so much fun, and it's such a great learning experience for us. The show is archived on realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage is someone you can absolutely trust. Scott Morris, Ross Mortgage. The I Love CVille show is up in 1 hour. And we have a lot to cover on the program, guys. Thank you kindly for joining us. For Maggie, for Scott, for Judah, this is Real Talk with Keith Smith. So long, everybody. That was awesome, guys.
That was fun.
It was so fun.
That was a good one.
He's going to tell us when the mic...